Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the first post-April birthday donathon stream. This is your host, Cuddlymuffintop, a half-human, half-blob VTuber who comes into the virtual world through the wonders of human slapstick. Really? Now that I can just see... increase this. Maybe. Increase this, yeah. Ha, 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 ha! See, now that I have it solely on Twitch, I can see the channel redemption points. With Restream, since I had it connected to both Twitch and YouTube, when I simultaneously stream on both, I couldn't see those. Ha ha ha! Delightful. This is a good start. Now you're probably wondering to yourself, Cuddly, why aren't you taking a break after you spent almost an entire month streaming, raising donations for your savings account? Which, I have to admit, thank you again for making that all possible. We almost reached $750 overall, and that is a humongous achievement. And if you happen to be over on the Discord server, which, in this case, if you're not, here is the account to do so, the link I have included within my suggestion sample channel there, 4 threads involving suggestions for the 4 following donathon goals that we met during this lovely occasion. First off being the Try Not to Laugh challenge, where you can post your video suggestions that you think will make me giggle, make me hysterical in a lot of ways. Then there's the not mod media. I decided to go with community media share, that you are more than welcome to post videos that you think that I would like, as long as there's no copyrighted music or anything against TOS. And then there's a thread for, if you can think of any big, beautiful women and big, handsome men in media, there is a thread for that. Post your pictures as long as they're 18 plus. I know it's crazy for me to say because you know how... Ha! You know, I would probably... Yeah, you're referring to, since you were the top donator, you're referring to, you know, your special prize for that. You know what? In a way, you could say that I kind of go well with a Soulsborne type of game. Except, you know, don't make me as cuddly and you'll probably have eyes oozing out of each socket and just going... like that, so to speak. So that's understandable. Yes, I have no qualms of that. The Orphan of Cuddles. Ah! That's a title if I... Except I'm not an orphan, though. I still have my parents. But still, yes, that's how... You have my permission for that. And since we're still in the pondering process with that picture indeed. And yes, I'm gonna make sure that everyone who has donated will be getting a personalized video message from me thanking them for the contribution, no matter what the amount is. And of course, we got the top 3 donators being... Cat Lady Crates, Sober Tony, and Trippy Jean, all 3 of them. You're already Twitch VIP members. It's like, come on! Of course the ones that are gonna be the top donators are already VIP. And I don't know if you have any other special roles on Discord. So feel free to DM me what your special roles that you would like to have. And you can have more than 2 as well, if you wanted. Because some of you might have already had a special role from a prior subathon or whatnot. So, this is your opportunity. Event. King of the Muffins, my ass. But, it is your choice though. The chosen ones. Yeah, more than likely that does seem to be the case with that. And, I'm going to be sending you that list of games that you have full access to choosing. In this case. For you to keep for free from my good old collection of humble bundle codes that I have accumulated throughout the years. And now some of you might have already gotten a look at them in the past. There might be some newer titles in there that you might have skipped out on, but they're yours to keep for being such charitable bastards. This is an extension of my good old-fashioned humbleness. I guess that's a way to go about it in this regard. So, with that said, oh yeah, the last one was, what was the fourth one? Oh yes, the shock collar lie detector questions thread is also on there too. So you have a simple question for me that can be answered with either a yes or no. Feel free to ask that question down in there because I'm more than likely going to be answering that as well. And of course, don't try to make me too uncomfortable or go too much into my personal space. There might be ones that I will reject, but I'm more than certain that it's not going to be much of a matter simply because I'm more open-minded about certain questions. Like, yeah, do you enjoy walks on the beach? Yeah, that's a question I'm more than comfortable in answering. And to tell you the truth, I haven't been onto the beach in years. It's gonna be of a... Whoa, what the bloody hell is this, Mr. Amount of Ideas? Hi! Holy crap, you might want to cut down the caps lock. I think that's one of the rules, but you should be good to go. I'll let that slide. But hello! Greetings and salutations, you. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to the stream. Oh, no worries there. Just wanted to inform it. It's nothing too horrendous or anything like that. Good job on writing the lyrics in the meantime. So, in this taste tonight, we're gonna go over a PowerPoint presentation of my favorite games that I finished for the first time last year. I originally thought that it wasn't gonna work out because I always have this fear. Since I originally did this PowerPoint presentation, I worked on it through Microsoft PowerPoint, that it wasn't gonna work out with the program that I have at home because I don't have Microsoft. I don't have like the Microsoft software for Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. I have Apache OpenOffice, which is a free resource with open source in this case. And I have Impress presentation. So I wasn't sure if Microsoft was going to be stingy with who can open a specified Microsoft file, but looks like it worked. We are in the clear. Microsoft is allowing other PowerPoint programs to run their files. So with that said, we're good to go. We are absolutely good to go to showcase this. And if there is enough time, we are very much fallen quite behind on ranking the games that I have played so far for the first time this year. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that too if we have enough time. That's counted for February, March, and April. 3 months of games that I haven't really given my very critical mind on. So, are we all ready for the countdown then? Are we all set? Hopefully this won't take us too long. This will hopefully be a shorter stream than normal to give myself a little bit of breathing room. And we'll be back to games.
I understand nothing.
Hey. Hi there. You know what? No worries if you don't understand anything, because sometimes that's the same thing for me too. Alright. Let's go ahead and get started with the presentation. Again, I am not an expert with making these PowerPoints. I have just started to utilize them when I initiated the Bazaar Bowl for the first time. So, take kindly to how I got this all presented. And you'll find that it is very personal, because this countdown has images done by none other than Ali Illustrate. And that's the main reason why it took me so long to basically have this countdown all organized to begin it. Simply because I didn't want to rush Ali Illustrate. what I requested was something that I didn't want her to crunch on. I feel horrendously bad when someone that I hire to edit a video, to make artwork, thumbnails, and whatnot for me, to feel like they have to rush. Unless you have to pay, like, the extra tax in order to make that a reality. You really love your good old boss. That's what she said. Yeah, let's not rush it. Let's not rush it. We gotta take it nice and slow here. Says the person who hasn't had sex in their entire life.
What?
I think someone is
Bro,
having a
what are you
ball
talking
with
about, man?
Tangia today. Ha! I see that. I see that. So, yeah, Ali did a whole lot for me in preparation for this lovely list. Hey, is that Pedro Pascal?
What do you mean?
My word, you're caressing the Neo quite a bit. Pressing the wheel quite a bit there. Oh yeah, so yeah. She did great job with what I'm about to present on this countdown. So here, I'm gonna go ahead and shout her out. I don't think she streams that often, but if you're looking to commission someone, Ali Illustrator's done so much for my channel. The thumbnails, my overall existence, the panels down low, the emotes, the overlays, with the help of Anelia. I feel like I'm butchering the name. So much couldn't have been existing without her in the meantime. So make sure you give her some love. And maybe even help over to her website if you want to perhaps commission. I have her panel down below if you wish to give it a look. Alright, so here we go. We have... Let's see if we can get this up and running here. Oh, looks like I'm gonna lower this down here. I think that might be for the best, or just... You're gonna be shrunk a little bit, I hope you don't mind. Or, here, we gotta still have you legible. There we go. Probably right there for the moment should be sufficient here. We have Cuddlymuffintop's top 10 favorite video games finished for the first time in 2023. Let's get started with all of this madness. Alright. So, all together, I have finished over 70 video games for the first time. 70. Now, bear in mind, a good chunk of those video games are of the shorter variety, ones that I normally stream on Short Game Fridays. But that also takes into consideration that I also play games that I have played in the past, sometimes on my streams. So, to actually finish up 70 games last year, I think that was a lot more than 2022, if I'm being completely honest. I think it was still in the 60s. So am I going to be able to beat that record this year? More than likely not, depending on the length of the games themselves. But as long as I'm enjoying the games and I am streaming to you, my lovely chubby checkers, hopefully that will account for something. Now, the following highlighted here within this PowerPoint are my favorites from 2023 that I streamed. Alright, now we gotta move you again. Bloody hell, chat! Chubby checkers, why you do this? Why are you so... Here we go. I think that would be it. It was like, you have to squint in order to see you now. Haha! So I have placed a few rules for this list in particular, to kind of give myself a bit of ease of mind. Rule number 1. They must be video games that I have finished for the first time ever, or have accumulated several hours to warrant an informative opinion. I don't know about the informative part, but if it's like, for example, a free-to-play game that I sank so many hours into, or is a game without a real conclusion that I sank a lot of hours into, they can count on this list. Number 2, I feel like this is an important rule because, let's face it, I can't afford to play every single game that came out last year. It would have been impossible. There's a lot of titles that came out in 2023, a lot of golden ones like Baldur's Gate 3 or Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, or what was it? Legend of Zelda. You would think that I would know the title of that Zelda sequel, but I don't. Tears of the Kingdom, that's it. Lies of P2, yeah. That's one I didn't get to play last year. Like, you're gonna see a whole lot of 2023 games that are not on this list. So to make myself, a little bit okay with what I have for my selection, I have decided to extend it to any previous year or generation as long as the first rule applies. Meaning it has to be a game that I finished for the very first time. Now, if I played it but never beat it, it still can count on this list. So yeah, we'll have to see if Baldur's Gate 3 might be a possibility in the near future. I honestly feel like doing a solo play and a multiplayer thing will be vital. Alright. Rule number 3. No early access titles, because they are not the official release. They are still a work in progress, meaning if I were to judge them based on their alpha, beta versions, it wouldn't be accurate. It wouldn't be accurate to the entire thing. Like, so for example, Slime Rancher 2 I think came out last year, and that's still in early access. If I would have played an extended amount of time on that game, I don't feel like it would be satisfying for me to rank it since its true potential hasn't been fully unleashed by the developers yet. So yeah, that would have been an example of that sort of title. Now if Slime Rancher 2 comes out this year and I happen to play it, and I enjoyed it, it would be on the list. Or a game such as 7 Days to Die, which is finally getting its version 1.0. If I spend an extravagant amount of hours on that game, and I enjoyed it, that can come into play here too. Now, very important rule here, everyone. All these picks are my subjective opinion. Meaning, just because these are my favorites doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna be yours. We all have our different itches when it comes to what entertains us as video gamers. We might cozy on in onto a different genre. You might even dislike some of the games that I list on this countdown. So, at any point, you're more than welcome to let me know what your favorite games that you finished for the first time last year happen to be. Because, yeah, we all have different tastes. As long as we try to be civil about it, I think we can go a long way. We are chubby checkers, of course. I think we are above petty squabbles about which were our favorite video games. Huh? Hopefully so. Now, before we go on to the main list, I do have some honorable mentions. These are titles that I still enjoyed, but they couldn't quite crack the top 10. You should still, if you haven't already, give these games a shot. So, are we prepared? The first honorable mention is The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. Who knew that a free game in the Sonic franchise released on April Fool's Day would be enjoyable? So this was a game that I streamed with Pandemonia, and to be completely honest, this is probably the skinniest that Pandemonia has ever been, yet she already killed Sonic, so her pleasantly plump posterior has definitely left a sinking impact. But I honestly enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the character writing, and honestly, this is the first time that I've actually thoroughly enjoyed a Sonic game in quite a while. But then again, please note that I haven't played games such as Sonic Mania yet. And that's supposed to be a gem in and of itself. So since these are honorable mentions, I'm going to just go ahead and switch over to the next honorable mention. Franken! I don't know if any of you caught this stream, but it was during my Planned Parenthood session where I played Franken for the very first time. It's a free-to-play game over on itch.io where you play a hero in a very comedic setting, kind of similar to Space Funeral, except the humor is not as morbid. It really is a short RPG with a lot of DMCA-like music incorporated, but it still was a fun time. So, if you don't want to be spoiled about what this game is all about, I highly recommend that you download it for free over on the itch.io page. Just look up Franken, and I think you'll be in for a very good time. Don't try to spoil yourself, especially with a certain donkey video, if you can. Next game. Slayers X Terminal Aftermath Vengeance of the Slayer. This is a spin-off of a game that I finished for the first time just last month, Hypnospace Outlaw, with Zane as the main character. This is a first-person shooter that seeps with 90s flair. Lot of neat little tricks, little nods, little parodies that come into play. The shooting is very good. Even though there are moments where there's a lot of open space and not really too much of a clear direction as to where you need to go next in some elements, but that happens not as often. It definitely was a comedic game that I honestly loved, especially when he is so willing to be edgy but not curse at all, while being extremely violent and just oozing with edginess, that teenager rebellion, and also nice Easter eggs involving the person's later life. It was a fun little diversion. Highly recommend it if you haven't played it already. Next, honorable mention. Trombone Champ! That's right, everyone. The toots got to me. This dutiful musical rhythm game did win my heart over. And it still continues to add content to this very day while making some tweets here and there. I have to admit it. This is one of those instances where the toilet humor goes so hard and wins me over. And like I mentioned before, you should know this by now, my chubby checkers. When it comes to toilet humor, I like it when it's not overused. But this game not only overuses it, but it makes sense. Because a trombone likes to toot toot all around. And hearing your special classical music or folk songs through a trombone, it's honestly one of the most fun rhythm games. Oh, thank you for that complimentary toot there, Cat Lady Crates. That was great. That was subtle. It's honestly one of the most fun rhythm games there is, even though you gotta be careful with your wrist. Sometimes they can get to you if you're not too careful with the whole thing. But yeah, Trombone Champ. I think the vinyl record for this game is still on sale right now on iam8bit.com. So if you want to get the Tudor variations of such classic compositions from Mozart and otherwise, give it a little check there. The next honorable mention, Omori. Of course, we gotta have a dark, edgy, but I guess you wouldn't say edgy, it's very traumatic in a way. I have to say, if it wasn't for that one cliffhanger that didn't have so many, in my opinion, a lot of plot holes involved with its execution, this game would have ranked a little bit higher. It might have even cracked the top 10 if it wasn't just for those instances. That, and it does kind of play out a bit too long in some regards, and I honestly would have preferred how it would have been a gradual deterioration into the escapism, kind of coinciding with the real world if you decide to engage with it. But overall, it is undeniably still a special title, which almost got me teary-eyed at the end. I cannot deny its impact. Even with all the controversy that went into the making of this game, especially its Kickstarter, I still was quite impressed with Omori. It's not one of my favorite RPG makers that kind of dwell into very disturbing content, but it's one that I still wholeheartedly respect. Next up, we have Unpacking. This is such a cozy game. Who knew that moving into a new residence and just unpacking your supplies into each room would be so cozy? It's honestly one of my favorite cozy games. And of course, you have seen some of the streamers out there who was trying to do the Dark Star playthroughs where they just try to time themselves to a certain amount of how much they can unload. And I know one of them might have been in the top 10 if I remember correctly. Seppi the Seal recently was in the top 10, but I could be wrong. That could have changed from the last time I spoke with them about it. But yeah, this was played during my Treble Project Donathon stream from last February. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. It makes moving so much more soothing than it is in the real world. If only the real life process of moving out and moving into a new residence was like this. Next honorable mention. Vampire Survivors. I just noticed that I'm right above the V and the A and the M. Could have been Pyre or Empire Survivors. With new content basically being added to this game, like still, and people still enjoying the living blobby hell out of it, I understand it. And this is coming from someone who saw that Among Us did a collaboration with Vampire Survivors. The game is so simple and yet thoroughly complex at the exact same time, especially when you have to key in all these factors about which combos would work best for each character. You would think it's just a simple thing about moving your character around and, you know, having your weapons automatically shoot out from your character into that landscape, but if you don't have the right weapon combinations, you will easily get slaughtered. And it's addictive. I don't think I've seen a game like this even topped yet. I almost thought that Brotato did, but some of the aspects of that game isn't as fulfilling for me. Especially when you discover a chest and you see those flashing lights and you see the chest whirl up all of that treasure. It's almost like gambling, except you don't even have to pay a single penny for that, except for buying the DLC and the base game itself, which $4.99 for Vampire Survivors? Yeah, good deal. Good deal. Next game in the honorable mentions. Yes, we're still on the honorable mentions. So many games I played last year were so good to me. Inscription. Another marvel by Daniel Mullins. I have loved each and every one of the games that I have played. My favorite being the Hex still, with Pony Island, a game that I played and streamed last year, also winning my heart. Inscription being the game in which you build your decks and also try to escape from your surroundings as well. It does so many things in this meta narrative that it still wows me, and I'm now anxiously waiting for Pony Island 2 to come out and sees what he does next with that formula. How the reinvention is going to turn out. Honestly, yeah, I'm excited for Pony Island 2. Excited to see which direction it goes, how it's going to subvert everyone's expectations and whatnot. It's dandy good, dandy good. Next honorable mention, Before Your Eyes. It is a pity that I wasn't able to get my camera to work for this game because, of course, you control this game with your eyes. Every time you blink, the game progresses. And since my camera wasn't able to properly work at all, the only way I can progress with the game is a mouse click. And I feel that was kind of robbing the game of its overall quality. I felt like I got the cheap end of the stick because I was able to view every single scene. I know. A single belly button. I even attempted to stream this game with me as a human. I woke up from my unconscious state, basically showcased myself, and even then, the camera didn't work with my eyes. So it's like, screw it. We're just gonna go with the mouse click here. So it's like, yeah, apparently it doesn't like my eyes. Probably doesn't even like glasses, since I wear them as a human. That's probably it. This camera is racist against glasses. But still, very emotional title. Definitely check this game out if you haven't, especially if you are in VR. It's so good. This game deserves a lot of credit. Alright, next game. Start Again. This was a game that was recommended to me by Moreninini, who whole existence was based off one of the characters from this visual novel about, well, 4 individuals caught in the time loop where they have to escape or else a bomb will go off. Of course, it has some good old boy love to kind of lure you in, but the overall impact of the story and how it relates to this whole time paradox that keeps going on was very moving, so to speak. It was one of the few instances where a property, entertainment title, whether it was from a movie, a TV show, otherwise, actually does a cohesive job of sticking to the rules of its time travel. And does so in a way that is potent and, well, powerful. Yeah, I sincerely thank Moreninini for introducing this game for me to stream. And next, and don't worry, we only got a few more titles left in the honorable mentions, and then we're going straight to the top 10. Next one. I'm gonna go down for this one. Sam and Max hit the road! I love Sam and Max. I adore this duo, these detectives. Look at me squeezing Max's ass. That Langomorth is basically loving it. You know it's true. It's definitely lives up to the reputation that it has as one of the best adventure games out there. And the fact that I didn't even know that Sam was voiced by the voice actor for Goofy himself in this game says a lot of volumes. I know that Sam and Max have been voiced by several different voice actors, like whether it's in the games or the TV show. It always was a hoot. LucasArts always killed it when it came to the earlier point-and-click adventure games, and this was a lot of fun to really go. The humor was amazing. I always got a chuckle out of Sam and Max, whatever they do. Will there be any future ones with Sam and Max? Who knows? The creators are part of Pixar now, and I honestly don't think that they're ever gonna greenlight a Sam and Max movie with Pixar animation. I mean, it would be kind of cool, but the humor probably wouldn't fit with the kids, so to speak. I don't know. Max is a wild one. I don't think you could trust them with the youngins. Alright. One more honorable mention. The game that almost made it to the top 10. And that game is what I consider to be my favorite game Frictional Games has done. That's right, it's Soma! Soma. Yep. Soma was a very philosophically complex and morbidly entrancing experience. Compared to all the other games that Frictional Games has done, Amnesia, The Dark Descent, Amnesia Rebirth, and vice versa, this was the one that really made me ponder the most in terms of human consciousness, if we still have a soul that goes beyond our human bodies and into machines, or if our souls can still be collected within anything else besides what we originally have in this sort of form. It makes you ponder and also creeps you out in a good amount of doses. I want to say that this game petrified me, so to speak, but it was, out of all of the Frictional games, the one that left the most impact, so to speak. Yeah, I'm glad I finally got to play this for the first time. It was one of the winners of the Spooktober SmackDown. Well, due to a complication with Prey and Dead Space Remake being cut out, but he was hoping that they might make a return for the next one, so to speak. Alright. That's it for honorable mentions. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the description if you think my honorable mentions should have been in the top 10, or if you even enjoyed those games to begin with. There we go. Have some more water. Water time here. Now then. Now that the honorable mentions are out of the way, it's time for us to reveal my actual top 10 favorite games I finished for the first time in 2023. You're guessing already, huh? Okay. Interesting. You saw that it wasn't in the honorable mentions, so you were assuming that it's in the top 10. I see. Got it. I'm not gonna spoil it. That will ruin the fun of this entire reveal. But let's get started with number 10. And number 10 is actually a game that came out last year. Oh my god! It's a game that actually came out in 2023? Oh my god! Planet of Lana. This was a beautiful game. Narrative driven. So many fun interactions. The art style was absolutely stunning. Puzzles not too complex and whatnot. And if it wasn't for what I think was a bit of a Deus Ex ending, it would have ranked a little bit higher. Because I don't really care for those endings that kind of robs an emotional scene that it has and then just try to makes it more, happier again. Kind of ruins the impact of something. I normally like it when they're more bittersweet, so to speak. But the puzzles were still engaging. It had this gorgeous atmosphere. And honestly, for the first game, if I'm not mistaken, they really hit it out of the park. This is definitely a title that, I don't know, really got as much recognition as other indie games that came out that year. So, if you haven't already, I think it's still on the Xbox Game Pass. Please check it out. It's a short title. I beat it in a short game Friday. It's very powerful. And I hope there's more visually, more style that goes with the substance, so to speak, with this kind of adventure. Alright. Number 9, it's a tie! Now you're probably wondering why the next entries are a tie. Well, let me answer that for you. The reason why the next two games tied for number 9 is because they belong to the same trilogy. That gives you a hint as to what they are. Any guesses? Any sort of wild assumptions? Or should I just unveil it for each and every one of you? I can if you want to. If you want to be left flabbergasted as to what I picked. I see how it is. You would like to get yourself dwindling your fingers and think, oh, it's gonna be this title. Show it. Alright. I hope a certain person is here to see this because number 9, I have both The Cat Lady and Downfall Redux for the number 9 slot. They all both belong to the Devil Came Through Here trilogy. It was my first time playing these titles. And The Cat Lady, while having the most powerful story, I still think that Downfall beats it in terms of its presentation. And the voice acting for Downfall was also a bit of an improvement, especially in its audio quality. I feel like in The Cat Lady, some of the audio quality, you can tell that they didn't record the lines in the same location, like they had the remote settings. And while a good amount of the acting is great, especially with the leads, some of the other acting seemed kind of wooden. I will wholeheartedly admit with The Cat Lady. But even with that said, The Cat Lady's story, its morbid tackling of themes, and just the overall perspective that it brings to the table in this point-and-click adventure game, it's commendable. I just wish there were more games like what The Cat Lady is, tackling these very disturbing images, but also makes it empowering to a large extent, and having it be so character-driven that, well, let's just say that it still brings a lot of perspective to why this is all happening. So yeah, Cat Lady really wowed me in this regard. And like I said before, while I didn't find the story for Downfall Redux to be as impactful, you are basically controlling a sick individual in this regard. I still felt like the acting was top-notch. I still felt that the writing was superb. I still felt that the visual flair was a big upgrade to what it was prior, especially to the original version. And it still left me, well, thinking, contemplating about if any of the choices that I did matter, and how each character, especially the main character to others, interact with each and every one of the NPCs. That unveils so much complexity to the entire themes about, was there really love there? All of these individuals portraying aspects of how their marriage was failing, how it led to this point of view. Superb. Yep, I'm glad I got to play this one too, on the same month. And if I'm not gonna be playing it before Spooktober, I am definitely gonna be playing the finale of the trilogy, Lori Lay, for Spooktober, since it is a sequel to these games that I played for that. So yes, there is all your number 9s. Number 8. This game was originally at the halfway point of 2023. My number 1 game that I finished for the first time. That's how drastically different everything went in the latter half of 2023. And here's a hint. This game is getting a VR version this year. You can sync your hits up right on tune. It's Metal Hellsinger, baby! Ha ha ha! There's my beloved, the unknown. There she is. Ha ha ha! And that's me at the skull, fawning over her. Yup. Yep, absolutely. Metal Hellsinger is the best rhythm game that I played last year. It met so many of my expectations of what goes into a rhythm shooter, timing all those shots to make these combos, and the way that the music, the impact of the music continues to improve and charge up the more you elevate those combos. Like, once you get to the maximum counter, death growls and the singing comes into play to get you motivated to mow down all of these demons. Ha! So invigorating. I just wish that the soundtrack would come out already on vinyl so I can own it. I love this soundtrack so much. Ah, it's so good. Then again, this is someone who really is in tune with metal music of all kinds, so it was a given that this would really wow me over. The only reasons why it didn't really rank so much higher for me, though, is I felt like the boss designs, they kept reskinning them for each and every occasion. I wish the boss designs were more varied, and honestly, that's about it. That's the only real complaint. I was going to originally say this, but it's DLC. I noticed that Metal Hellsinger released DLC music that wasn't even really metal music. Like, it was very poppy. It's like, what is this doing in this game? But then I realized, you don't have to buy it. It's DLC. It's not required. It's not in the original packaging. So it's like, why do I have to complain about that? I can decide to just not buy it and just get the other DLC with Lacuna Coil and so on and so forth. Yeah, this game has a lot of charm. Great voice acting by Troy Baker and Jennifer Hale. Awesome music, especially from top professionals such as Surge from System of a Down and Dark Tranquility. And then you got Arch Enemy. So many real big potent hitters in this. It's so much fun to play. Number 7. Now we are getting into games that I consider to be S-class titles. S-class. Last year I only had 4 titles that would have accommodated S. Or, let me rephrase that. 2022, I only had 4 titles in my top 10 that ranked in the S-class. Those were Sayonara, Wild Hearts. Let me see, what was the other one? Oh, why can't I think of the other title? Oh, I'm so bad. It was the one. Oh, The Procession of Cavalry. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge, and Grease. Those were the only 4 from 2022. This year, well, 2023, had 7. 7 titles that I think are high class. So you will understand how these titles were a little bit tricky to move around. So let's start with number 7 then, huh? Bramble the Mountain King. It is so good to find indie titles such as this, basically rooted in this sort of folklore that sends off this childish glee and also brings about this disturbingly dark vibe to it. If it wasn't for... It goes kind of like the same thing with Planet of Lana for me, where I felt like the ending was a bit too happy. Because when you read fairy tales, no matter where they come from, they oftentimes have this very bleak and not so grand of endings for the people involved. And I almost feel like it would have been a bit better if it was more tragic. They went a bit on the safe route in order to finish things up. But overall, I loved how they incorporate all the folklore into its storytelling. I loved how the visuals looked. I loved the music. The entire vibe of this tale was great. And plus, you have children getting themselves in actual danger. A lot of horror properties out there involving children don't normally have the risk of possibly being killed in their games or in the films or whatnot. So why even put them in there at all? In this one, you got kids in danger. Not to the same extent as like Skinamarink, but yeah, these kids are actually potentially going to die in some gruesome ways. And I admire that about it. I don't know if they will consider orphans. I'm not entirely sure. But if they are, it's like extra brownie points in this case. Okay. It looks like I might have missed the number 6 slot in here. So we're going to jump right into number 6 after this slide. Number 6 is Cocoon! Look, I'm not a very good puzzle player. Sometimes I can be easily stumped by a lot of puzzles. But when they are created so intrinsically well, like Cocoon, it has to be praised. Even if I'm not a big fan of puzzle games in particular, I have to give credit where credit is due when a puzzle game makes it so amazing to conquer them, like Cocoon does. Of course, being from one of the former developers of Inside and Limbo, I knew I was in good hands for puzzle mechanics in this game. I love the buggy and very out there atmosphere. It was very outlandish, and the prospect of putting environments into a ball and then putting that into a ball and then going into that ball in order to work out puzzles, it can be a little bit much at first, but it gets so rewarding once you get further into the game. Oh yes, this was a doozy of a puzzle game, if anything else. Yeah, I think this one's still on the Xbox Game Pass if you haven't tried it out yet. Fantastic puzzle game. We got another tie at number 5. But this one has a similar thing as to what the Cat Lady and Downfall had. These are games in the exact same series. I wonder if anyone knows what the other series I tackled last year. Could be a little bit of a wild guess. I'll give you a hint. Cocoon isn't the only puzzle-based game that I played last year. That's right! Monument Valley 1 and 2. These games are so incredible. I could see these games really popping up on an iPhone because it has this great user interface. The puzzles that are incorporated with these panoramic views are just spellbinding. Honestly, this was the kind of puzzle game that I felt rewarded me the most, which is why it edges out Cocoon for me personally. The puzzles were simple, but yet, when you get some that are a bit more complex, I felt more rewarded with them than any other puzzle game this year. It was a blast. Honestly, one of the prettiest games that I played last year, for sure. And, I mean, if you have the phone, do you not have games on your phone? Seriously, try this on your iPhone or Android, whatever phone that you have. This game is relatively cheap. In fact, if you have that annual mobile game membership, doesn't matter if it's from Apple or Google, this is worth playing. Both of them, Monument Valley 1 and 2, are worth playing. Alright. Number 4. This might be the most controversial pick that I have in this entire list. This one might make some head spin. This one might make people simply in awe and appalled by what they just witnessed. You're probably thinking, which game could that be? Which game could be? You're still high enough on this top 10 list, but yet, still only at number 4. Blasphemous 2. I'm gonna let that seep in. I'm gonna just let this seep in now. Cuddly, I thought you loved Blasphemous. I do. Then why do you only have it at number 4 and not number 1? As much as I really do love what Blasphemous 2 in order to improve its combat, its surroundings, as well as how it makes you explore every nook and cranny with its Metroidvania more focused side, one thing ranks it down for me as of right now compared to the original, and that is the bugs. This game had very noticeable musical bugs that kind of detached me and left me not fully immersed in the experience. Especially with that one boss fight, where the music never played at all whatsoever. The only way that I heard that song for the first time was when I was basically listening to it on YouTube. It's like, why couldn't this song play when I was fighting this boss? It did leave me a little bit disappointed. And I also thought that the overall mythology and the story in particular kind of lacked the same oomph in regards to its NPCs, the world building, and so forth, compared to the first one. I just grew more immersed with the characters of Blasphemous and the overall surroundings. And don't let me wrong, I wish that the first penitent one was the final boss, because that boss was a beat. It was challenging, but so rewarding. But then you get the actual thing that was reborn, and that was one of the most anticlimactic bosses that I've ever faced, honestly. You could say to an extent that the first Blasphemous also had this problem with Krishanda being such a challenge, making you remember all the skills you learned in that game in particular, and then the final boss being kind of subpar. But I feel like Blasphemous 2 was more so, because I think, the first Blasphemous I beat for the very first time. And it was like, what? It was... I couldn't even believe it. I honestly wasn't sure if I did things right. Maybe it was because I knew of the combos that I can align myself to make myself maybe too overpowered, but kind of left me a little bit unsatisfied. Now, with that said, with the possibility of DLC coming for this game, and of course them being able to fix the bugs as more patches come in, this game might rank higher later on down the line depending on how those are executed. Because when I judged Blasphemous, the original one, I judged it based on the overall package with everything released, and I still wholeheartedly admired it. So with Blasphemous 2, depending on how, and I know they're more than likely gonna do this, with the DLC, if that becomes so good, then it may rank my opinion on Blasphemous 2 even higher. I still adore this game. I still enjoy the series as a whole. I just wish that I didn't encounter the bugs that I did. I wish it was more polished. But here's the thing. When Blasphemous first came out, that was also riddled with bugs that were yet unfixed. And when I played that for the first time, they already had mended those bugs. And since I played this just a month after it was officially released, they basically had the same problem with their release, where it had maybe a bit too many bugs that they still had to basically squish. So, Blasphemous 2 might rank higher than it did right here, further down the line, depending on, well, the overall package at the end. I'm pretty sure this game is going to be finely tuned and have DLC down the line. Maybe not this year. It could be next year for all we know. But I am looking forward to it. And I still highly admire this series. But Blasphemous 2 did not hold a candle to the next top 3 video games that I finished for the first time. So, you're probably wondering to yourself, Cuddly, what now? If Blasphemous 2 isn't in your top 3, if it's not even your number 1 favorite, what could possibly have beaten Blasphemous 2 for you? What games could have had such a powerful impact on you with its gameplay, its story, its overall presentation? How could you beat Blasphemous 2 with that? Quite simple. Toy stories that tug at the heartstrings relates a very similar ailment that I personally have in a very humane manner, and have some of the most challenging but ever so rewarding platforming that one could ever witness. It's Celeste, baby. Yeah! That's right, Celeste is number 3 on my list. This game is so much fun. It's so hard. I died over 1,000 times in this game. If I was spinning the wheel of punishment for every 10 deaths that I face, I would have basically gone insane. But with that in mind, I loved the story. I love Madeline and their struggles with not only their identity, but trying to beat out their anxieties and insecurities just to reach the very top of the mountain. You can't go any more worse than that, for me personally. I just love how it feels. The controls are so on point. It's probably some of the most satisfying platforming controls since Super Meat Boy for me. Both really having the same sort of challenging, very arduous platforming. But this one, honestly, I have to admit, is a bit better. Simply because, well, you have all of this momentum that you can get with a second dash or jump. You have all of these unique obstacles that you have to traverse. You got your own insecurities chasing after you. I mean, that's just blobby insane for me. I'm surprised that this isn't my number 1. I really am, because this is a lot of people's number 1 favorite game when it released that year. But yeah, this game had a very special place. I want to thank Stellaria, I think was the one who recommended this game to me when they were a winner of my charity wheel spin. So yeah, thank you so much, for recommending Celeste for me to actually play for the first time. I wholeheartedly enjoyed it immensely. Now, what the blobby hell could be number 2 then? Number two. What could have beaten Celeste, considered one of the best indie games out there right now? What could have beat that, What could have beat that for me in terms of its fun factor, but still challenging aspects? What was a real, absolute thrill to slice open my enemies and yet get dished out in one hit and go through a psychedelic trip that goes beyond what I originally thought was in my head and what originally transpired. But then again, it was all something that was going way beyond the circumstances. Don't do drugs, kids, because it's Katana Zero! God, I love this game. God, bloody hell, I love this game. And they're still working on the DLC. So if that DLC is as good as this game, or even better, who knows if this will raise up to #1? Who knows? But God, being able to slice and dice through all of these different enemies with such a badass soundtrack, in the same vein as Hotline Miami, where you can kill enemies in one hit, but they certainly can kill you in one hit as well, with this drug-inducing trip where you don't even know what is real and what is reality. Oh, I love these are the kind of games that make me go, oh, so gratifying to really get through it. I may die like several times, but at least I'm getting the thrill of it. At least I'm enjoying my experience. At least I am kicking so much ass. And that's not even taking into account the one thing that I didn't stream during my playthrough of this game. There was an optional boss that you can play against, which is not only challenging, but extremely freaky. Because the boss goes into Akira levels of monstrosity. And it's so blobby cool. This game is the shit. This game is superb. I'm not gonna try and say that I can't wait for the DLC to finally come out, because it will release when it releases. And when it does, I am going to be so much into the thrill of it all. With that said, there's only one more game that was within my likes. One game that challenged me beyond anything else that year. One game that I had many nights where I said to myself, Cuddly, you're tired. You're burnt out. Why bother streaming a game which is only going to bring you pain and misery? But at the end, at the very end, there is a definitive reason why so many people think that this is the best From Software game ever. And that is it! Bloodborne! It's Bloodborne, of course it is! No other game got me so riled up from its difficulty, got me so immersed in its good old gothic architecture and themes, got me so immersed with the way that the battles are taking place, the selection of weapons, the tricks that you can pull off, the bosses that you can actually overthrow, and they might beat your ass so many times already in a row, but you know what? You just keep going back, you learn their patterns, even though it may take you like 30 battles in a row of losing to them, and you evolve. And even though I did do a lot of grinding here and there to kind of help me out with some of the challenges, it was worth it. I was enthralled by my very first From Software game. But yeah, it of course is Bloodborne. Of course it is. It's the game that, despite every single struggle, every single obstacle that was really to say fuck you to my face, I still came back because I was in love with everything that it represented. From its subtle moments, from its bleak outlook, to everything that just cries out, this is hopeless, but you're still struggling on. Over 300 deaths later, I still claim Bloodborne as my favorite game that I finished for the first time in 2023. And that is my top 10. That is my top 10 right here. Yep. So, what were your reactions to this entire top 10? Do you think that some games didn't belong in the top 10 if you had played them in the past? Well, think of it this way. If this was a game, my favorite games of actually 2023, then of course Blasphemous 2 would be my number one. Because that game released in 2023 and the top 3 were from prior years. So yeah, if it was an actual list of top games I played in 2023 that released that year, Blasphemous 2 would be number one. But this isn't that type of list. This is a list of all the titles that I streamed and finished for the first time. And there's nothing that can really beat out Bloodborne. Nothing. Oh. Death rules. Death and rebirth within all that vein. Ooh. So, that was my list. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the chat if you wish. Or, if you happen to be watching this as a past stream over on my second YouTube channel, which I'm more than likely going to post this over, feel free to leave your comments down there and let me know if there's any games that you resonated with from my top 10, my honorable mentions, or list off yours that you beat for the first time in 2023. Let me know what your favorites are. So with that said, I want to still give a big thank you to Ali Illustrate for illustrating every single thumbnail. Because yes, these are going to be the thumbnails that I'm going to be uploading for all of the streams over on my main and my secondary YouTube channels. So those are going to be upgraded sometime after this stream. And I'll be highlighting them not only in my Discord channel for Ali Illustrate Showcase, but also on my social media account so everyone can get some of that good old juices. I'll definitely have to share the ones for Pandemonia and Moreninini, just so they know that they have been represented within this countdown too. I'm interested to hear how Pandemonia thinks of her caricature within the Sonic universe, because she definitely was a little bit thinner than she normally is. She even told me she got thicker just recently. It's like, uh-oh. Did I do the right thing by having her portrayed like this? It's like, oh, wait, she'll be fine. She still squashed Sonic to death, so that's what matters. That's what matters. All the weight went to her ass. Let's just say, put it like that. It went straight to her ass. Ginormous. And that is going to do it for my top 10 favorite video games I finished for the first time in 2023. Now, this list is quite subjective. It is not the final word, especially since a good chunk of these games I finished didn't exactly release in 2023. With that said, did you perhaps like some of these choices? Perhaps you would have rated some higher than others? Or maybe I led you on to a game that you never tried before and wanted to give it a whirl, perhaps. Or you want to leave your personal picks for your favorite games you finished for the first time in 2023? Well, feel free to like, comment down below with your picks, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to be notified on when I upload another past Twitch stream onto this channel. I also do have a main YouTube channel where I've been uploading my shorts, hopefully by every weekday as long as everything goes into play, highlights from my streams in case you missed them, as well as streaming normally on Fridays and Saturdays, sometimes Sundays too, at around 7 p.m. Central Time Zone. You're more than welcome to check those out if you wish, and subscribe over there with the following buttons. Until then, hope you have an exquisite rest of your day. A huge thank you once more to Ali Illustrate for making these wonderful thumbnails for my streams, especially here on this channel. Now they have been updated for each of the games that I have uploaded here, as well as the main YouTube channel if you want to check those out now. And hope you all have an exquisite rest of your day, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, the evening, or the night, depending on where you may be. Ta-ta for now.